right, Scott, check this out. Colby Greenwave technology, Cobyplus stuff.
Hey, yeah, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, the Greenwave. There's our buddy Eric Estrada giving us the Shaka.
Mike
Great
Estrada.
shaper. Excuse me. Did I say Eric Estrada? Mike. Sorry, Mike. Mike's a great surfer and a great shaper. Yeah, Yamamoto Greenwave. Look, it features the finest plant-based external jersey in the Yamamoto number 40 neoprene, delivering, David, as you know, because you've worn the suit, the best wetsuit feel and performance that's in the marketplace. So this suit, um, I I can't overhype it. It feels wonderful, and I'm mine. My 4.3 is just. It feels like a 3.2.
Yeah, that's what Mike says. If I would turn the volume up, he says it's lightweight and flexible, feels like a 3.2. I would argue, even though Eric Estrada is much acclaimed for his good looks, I would argue Mike Estrada might be even better looking.
Well, you know what? Mike Estrada is a great surfer, as I mentioned already, and a great shaper, right? I think he has the he. I think he retains the town and country license here in North America, and he's a competitor. He's surfing. I believe he surfs for one of the clubs here in Orange County. It might be. I don't know. Does Newport have a club?
Newport does have a Newport and HB, so it might be one of those. But yeah, put him in the pantheon of great surfer, shaper slash surfers right
That's a
there.
great point.
Yeah.
When we think about, and we've talked about this before, we should probably bring this up. Great surfer shapers, like who are the best surfer shapers, and competitively, like you wouldn't want to draw Mike in a heat. He puts on the jersey a lot.
Yep. And he also puts on the Greenwave jersey. Booyah. So the Yamamoto Green Wave that we've been talking about, Scott kind of referenced it. The limestone, the neoprene itself, for the majority of the wetsuit, is the Yamamoto 40 limestone neoprene. And then the breakthrough with Green Wave is this plant based jersey. So it's 500 times the multi directional stretch of the traditional jersey. So that means both in width and length. So there's no kind of point that it kind of hand breaks, goes to full stretch and then kind of stops. It continues to slowly elongate past the normal point. It's double the strength. So plant based nylon has double the tensile strength of normal nylon, significantly lighter than standard nylon. And then also the natural material is obviously eco-friendly. So that is the added bonus. So check it all out at Cobyplus.com. Get to see handsome Mike Estrada. And then also realwatersports.com is our longtime retail partner with a 1,500 surfboard inventory that they've unlocked the code on shipping. So even though the retailer is in North Carolina in the Outer Banks, they can ship you a surfboard anywhere on the planet for one low flat fee, which is kind of incredible.
Well, I'm going there right now to look at their 1,500 surfboard inventory with shipping to everywhere and anywhere. So it's it's pretty easy to find one you like. Push that click that button, and boom, this board's going to be delivered. You'll be waxing this board for the next swell.
I was up there in the board loft one time and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, this is a lot of surfboards, but this isn't 1,500 surfboards. And then I talked to you later. And you're like, dude, I got a secret invitation to a back room area behind a
Yeah,
hidden door where
yeah,
apparently there's 1,000 more surfboards.
yeah. It's pretty incredible. There's like a little Wizard of Oz curtain that you go behind, and it's just like, oh my. And what's so fun about it is, Trip took me back there, and Trip and I, and you, and a lot of surfers are the same. We geek out on board, so it's just, you go from these ones to these Christensens to these Maurice Coles. It's just insane, all the beautiful surfboards there. And yeah, it's kind of like a candy store vibe.
Constantly updating inventory too. They're getting new shipments all the time, I'm seeing on Instagram. So follow along for fun. And then when you're ready to make a purchase, go to realwatersports.com.
see some movement at the takeoff zone. It's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, a guy. David, it's Spit. It's a Spit podcast. It's Wednesday, March 25th, and I can't believe this year in particular has flown by so quickly. Sounds cliche, but it's true. And good morning to you, David Scales.
Good morning to you, Scott Bass. Exciting days for you and I, because not only do we have Nicaragua right around the corner, but we have surfboards arriving for Nicaragua.
I know. I did text you an image of one of my new boards, and I think you have some pictures of some of your new boards as well, or...
I don't have pictures of mine. Should I pull up the picture of yours?
Yeah, that would be great. Let's show off my new Rusty.
Do you know what model this is?
You know, it's funny. I had this argument yesterday, not an argument, but a discussion with a friend of mine. I think the logo is a Slayer 2 logo, but I was struggling to figure it out, to be honest with you, because I don't actually have the board. Rusty just sent me a picture. The board's still in the factory being finished. Right. So I don't have the board in my person. If I did, I'd be holding it right now and showing it to you, but
it looks cool.
Yeah, if you can pull up the picture.
I'm trying my best. Hold on, I should.
It's a PU. It's a polyurethane twin fin.
Oh, it's a twin fin. I didn't know that.
But it's a 2+1, so there's going to be a little trailer.
Gotcha.
And
here we go.
That thing looks. I just like the width, right? It looks like it's going to get me around town.
Yeah, I'm trying to look. The logo, it's too pixelated to actually see what the name is, but
I struggled with it as well, but
looks killer.
Regardless, the outline looks pretty sexy, doesn't it?
It does. Thumbtail on it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you had a board coming from Rusty. I finally connected with Rusty a couple of weeks ago, and I happen to now have 2 surfboards coming from Rusty.
Yeah. I actually have another one coming as well. So you and I both have 2 boards coming from Rusty. So I'm pretty psyched. What did you get?
Well, I got a Not Too Moby fish. So there was the Moby fish, and then he lengthened it out a little bit and calls it the Not Too Moby fish. And the other one is, let me pull up the name.
Sure.
The Griffin, 6'4" Griffin. And to me, yours looks like a Griffin.
It is. I don't know. That one might be a Griffin. I know that there's a Griffin. He sent me like a little data sheet with some images from the CAD, and I believe it said Griffin on it. So,
and that
I
logo
apologize to Rusty. I'm a little confused. I know one's a twin fin and one's a quad, and I'm not sure which one's the Griffin.
Yeah, the Griffin you can order as a twin or a quad. I ordered mine as a Bonzer.
Rad.
Yeah,
that's crazy cool.
So. Check this out, though. For the Not Too Moby fish, he sent... The great thing about working with Rusty, by the way, is he documents every step of the process, so you get to be involved, even though it seems like you and I have zero information as we're discussing our boards now.
Well, he did initially too much information. This little feeble mind of mine, I mean, it gets lost. It's not Rusty's fault. He's definitely been providing info.
It's the truth. It's too much information. So, but he basically, what do you want to order? And so we discussed that on the phone. And then he follows up that night with like the Shape 3D imagery that's drawn out, plotted out on the computer. And then more information about the board, reviews from other riders, imagery of other boards that he's made that are the same model, that sort of thing. But with the Not So Moby fish, he provided some information that I found to be really educational, and I thought that I would read it for you guys here. And it's about the beak on the board and the history of the beak. Did you see this information?
No, this looks fascinating. Fill me in.
Well, look, you see that beak on the board. I'm showing a Word doc that Rusty actually emailed me with the board order.
Yeah.
And you're familiar with the beak. I've seen the beak on a lot of different surfboards. I have a bunch of boards that have the beak. He provides the history for it. Not only did I not know the history, I didn't really understand the purpose of it. I thought it was kind of just the natural curve of things, and so it just made sense to leave the board shaped that way. But it turns out there's hydrodynamic principles at play. So would you like to hear this?
Yes, please. And yes.
So Rusty says, when I first started shaping, most boards had beaks. I remember distinctly that might be an exaggeration, but every shaper had his own beak. It was a signature. So where did the beak come from? In 1920, Nikola Tesla patented a valvular conduit for Tesla valve that works as a fluidic diode. It's a leaky diode, i.e., the reverse flow is non-zero for any applied pressure difference. He proposed a theory on stream interaction, stating that one can achieve amplification by deflecting a stream of fluid from a different stream of fluid, or with a different stream of fluid. In 1930s, Henri Coandra, a Romanian scientist, described what is now known as the Coanda effect, a major contribution to fluidic technology. He observed that as water emerged from a jet nozzle, the stream will tend to follow a nearby curve or inclined surface. In 1955, Tom Morey invented turned down noses for surfboards. He called them the wingtip, a Coanda effect or a Coanda lift nose. 10 years later, he organized surfing's original prize money competition held in Ventura, California on the 4th of July weekend of 1965, better known as the Tom Morey Nose Riding Contest. Around that time, several board builders, including Maury Pope and Con Colburn, introduced down-railed noses. When surfboards started shortening it up in 1967, anything went as far as design. In the early 1970s, Mike Hinson's down-railed beak nose designs inspired Jerry Lopez. Dick Brewer's guns were arguably the most sought after. Dick, throughout his entire career, shaped boards with beaked noses. Beaks were somewhat still prominent up until the late 80s. Design shifts, very narrow, very thin, heavily rockered on both ends. Goodbye, beak. Beak noses are actually pretty simple and easy to shape. It's an extension of the rail line. Focus is on the last 4 to 5 inches of the nose. Beaks are best used in conjunction with boards that have flatter decks, more thickness forward, lower entry. The beak adds approximately 0.2s of a liter. So what would that be? 0.2 of a liter? Maybe a touch more depending on the shaper. Doesn't sound like much. They generate lift, help with paddling into waves. It's not the slight increase in volume that helps with paddling, catching waves. As water emerges from the jet nozzle, the stream will tend to follow a nearby curve or inclined surface, thus generating lift. Also, allows you to put a little more pressure on your front foot when driving forward. It's something, but it's also something aesthetic. On the right design, they look pretty cool. Cheers, Rusty.
Wow, that's really great stuff. Who knew? And I love the history of design, right? I mean, we often, especially myself, talk about the history of surfboards, and it's usually in relation to a person and or a particular wave. But to hear that full breakdown from way back when, starting with Tesla, that's amazing. One of the things that caught my eye there was, for a while, I was riding this is probably in like 80, 88 or something like that, 89, right around the mid-80s. I rode this Bill Holmesy Sidewinder. It was like my go-to board. It wasn't even my board. I just borrowed it. I was in a bad way. I was in this place where I was just borrowing boards from people because I didn't have boards. And this one board was stashed in this guy's garage on Chesterfield in Cardiff. And I was kind of living in the back there. And the Holmesy Sidewinder has this insane down rail in the nose. It's just a hideous turning board. You can't even turn it. It's got these crazy, the Sidewinder, it's got these crazy like reverse wings at the tail to funnel water over the tail. But the nose, man, I would take off at an angle, a pretty big Cardiff, North Swell Cardiff, and just run up to the nose and perch cheater 5. And that board was so fast because of that down rail up on the nose. And I was a huge fan of that board, maybe more because it was the only one I had that was available to me. But I just rode it for a good solid 4 or 5 months. And
amazing. Well, this information, again, it's a pure pleasure working with Rusty. And maybe 2 weeks ago, you were talking about the entry concave that he had discussed in his board order with you. And I saw feedback on our YouTube channel, comments pointing to other people who have been doing that exact thing for longer or have been doing it for decades or whatever. Not that Rusty hasn't been doing it, but he's now discussing it with you on his current board. And so part of my reason for bringing this up today is Rusty never said to you that he invented what he was talking about with you, nor that he was the first, that he's innovating it somehow. He's very aware of history and who's responsible for developing these designs or continuing the designs or whatever. You and I didn't communicate that on the podcast, but I think this document illustrates that he has a tremendous reverence for the designs that came before. And he also has enough context and experience to know how to incorporate them in modern designs, basically.
Totally agree. And it's called rapid entry within the Rusty Surfboards world. That's what Rusty's calling it. And I'm super excited about my rapid entry.
Yeah.
And we're gonna provide some feedback to our listening audience about these boards. So it's gonna be fun.
Exciting times. We like surfboards.
Nicaragua.
Yeah, Nicaragua. So I don't know. I never followed up with Waterways to see if that one extra space filled up, but I'll mention it now in case it didn't. We're going 1 week after another. So I'm going to go from April 12th through the 18th. Scott's going to go the following week. The trips were totally booked up. I think the first week that we advertised them, they sold out. But one person dropped out of my trip April 12th through the 18th. So that spot was available last week. I don't know if it got sold or not yet. But if you have the availability to go kind of within a couple of weeks notice, it's April 12th through the 18th. We're staying at Two Brothers Surf Resort. You can book it through waterwaystravel.com, or you can email me, hello@surfsplendorpodcast.com, and I'll just forward you to Waterways. But it's going to be 6 nights. We've got the whole resort to ourselves. It's an epic group of people, most of whom have come on these previous listener trips with us. So join us if you can. And consider Waterways for all your bookings, by the way.
I'm glad you mentioned the dates. I was like, I better put those in the calendar.
Are you kidding me? You already have a plane ticket. How do you not know the dates?
I know. I guess I fly on the 18th. I better look at my plane ticket. But gotta get that logged. Okay. Well, look. It sounds like there may be a spot for your trip.
Maybe.
And, so, are we going to be able to do this a podcast while we're both? Yeah, that should be simple, right?
Of course. We do it on remotely anyways. We might as well do it remotely while we're there. And I can give you feedback from the, on the ground, boots on the ground feedback.
Yes, that'll be great. I'm looking forward to your insights.
Yeah. And then also Chicama. We've got Chicama still coming up in August 22nd through the 29th. And I told you I've got a special guest potentially joining. I've made a little bit of progress on that, so I will announce that when that is confirmed, but excited for that too. So if you want to join Chicama, waterwaystravel.com, or go to surfsplendorpodcast.com, click on listener trip, and there's all the information there, including pricing and everything.
I was going to say that's a wonderful tease, because I feel like I'm already missing out on the special guest.
Yeah,
good for you and good for the listeners. That's cool that you've created something like that. Not to mention you're a special guest. Like, just to get to go and engage with you is going to be fun for the listeners as well.
I always enjoy it. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, lots going on in surf news. Do you have anything that you want to lead off with?
Well, I do have a Who Said That. Of course, we've got Bells right around the corner. I have a forecast and a little primer for that. Some business that we could potentially talk about. It's a little blah. It's a little blah, blah, blah. But
what a tease.
Rip Curl bringing Rip Curl and Paul Naude potentially, some business. Paul Naude potentially purchasing Rip Curl. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know. I don't have any insight into it. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't know.
That's why people tune in to not receive any insights on the things that we discuss. Don't undersell it.
Do you find it interesting? I don't actually find it that interesting.
I find it super interesting.
Okay.
Well,
let's talk about it then.
I don't. Okay, we will talk about it. I don't know if listeners find it interesting. for me personally, who's steeped in this stuff daily, week after week, year after year, that's the thing I find interesting, actually, because I don't, in my little world, I don't deal with big finance and big moving parts. And so I find it super interesting. And it does have relevance to our surf culture. It shapes our surf culture.
Yeah. Well,
so do we lead with that story, or do you want to talk about something else?
Well, why don't we try to stump you? I'll try to stump you with a who said that, which sort of speaks to the theme of the show a little bit regarding the WSL and the new season here, 2026, about to kick off. So, David, who said that? This is the Bells Beach edition, and I'm quoting a famous surfer here. Bells is a dud, the most overrated wave in the world.
Scott Bass.
I know you know this.
I was saying you're the one who said that.
Oh, no, I didn't, but it does sound like something I may have said in the past.
I mean, I could pull up a podcast where you said that verbatim, but go ahead.
Well, I found this morning. And so who said that, David? Was it A, Mark Richards, B, Nat Young, C, Barton Lynch, or D, Wayne Lynch?
Wow. I'm going to go. I mean, I would say either Barton or Nat Young. I feel like Nat Young, maybe.
David, you're incorrect. You're incorrect. Mark Richards is who said that. Yeah, there was an interview on the Encyclopedia of Surfing's website, the History of Surfing's website, where it's actually on video, where he goes, "It's a dud. It's the most overrated wave in the world." He goes on to say, I think it's just a big fat mush burger, which, it could be seen as blasphemous to those in the Australian competitive surfing world, because Bells has so much history and lore, and so much has gone on there. As you know, David, I believe it's the longest running surf contest in the world. As far as continuous.
They missed 1 year. COVID interrupted. I think COVID was the 51st year potentially, and they had to take a year off. But other than that, consecutive for now, what would be 55 years probably.
Wow. Well, I've got a bit of a primer for you. I'll just read it real quick.
Let me respond to the answer.
Yes.
It's funny to hear Mark Richards say that, and you're right, it would have been blasphemous when he said it. I think now more people say it because they're riding shorter, thinner boards, lower volume boards that make the burger aspect of it even more obvious. But it's funny for me to hear Mark Richards say that, because of all those surfers, I think of him surfing that wave most gracefully and without the interruption of the slow parts of the wave, like the twin fin and the fuller volume. The style of board that he was riding was more appropriate for that style of wave than what I had seen before and after.
Yeah, well, look, the quote's from quite a long time ago. Maybe he's changed his tune. I'm regardless. The wave itself, I think if there wasn't so much history surrounding it, it could be argued that it's not is it the worst wave on tour?
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So that's a plus, right? It's not on that list, or it's not number one on that list. What is the worst wave on tour?
On the current schedule?
Yeah.
Current schedule.
Brazil. No, the wave pool. The wave pool.
Yes,
Goodbye.
there's in contention would be Saquarema or Surf Abu Dhabi, and then Bells would be the three-way. And I would say Saquarema's the worst wave, followed by Abu Dhabi for boredom, and then Bells. Bells is better than Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
Right?
It's interesting.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's funny. I don't know what it is. Bells is interesting, though. Like, when Bells is big, it provides you with this one big climactic moment at the end of each wave, which in some ways is very engaging. Like, yeah, okay, really what they're trying to do is 3 turns. If they can get 2 in, okay, but you're going to be making the money if you get 3 turns in on the outside through the bowl section, then you kind of beat it through the flat section, and then you come to that inside section, especially at high tide, where 2 sections come together in a big explosion, and it's quite difficult to manage and to negotiate. And you can count on that as an end viewer, as a user, as a viewer of the event. You can count on that to kind of be that big moment. And so it does provide something that you can count on.
But it's not, even stating that, when you're talking about it colliding with an end section, it's not the best end section either. It's so close to short, often has backwash in it. And so the surfers, you can either bank up against it, but you can't really smash into it because it's a soft style of lip. So you either have to safety do that kind of floating end maneuver, or you commit to the wave face and do like a slam in the pocket of the wave and come down with it. It's not a traditional like end section coming at you that you can really blast into and go for a layback or an air or anything like that. It's not the best version of an end section.
Is the best version of an end section Margaret River, where it almost knocks you, it comes at you with so much force at you, the left coming into the right, that people just get knocked off?
That's a great example of a good one for sure.
Yeah.
Haleiwa provides it too at times, but that's not on tour, obviously.
Is Margaret River on tour?
Yes, Margaret River's stop number 2.
Okay.
April 16th.
Wow. Okay. Well,
but
look.
Notably, Griffin Colapinto last year made best use of that section by doing a full rotation air into it right in front of the bricks.
At Margaret.
Yeah. On the right.
That section is very difficult to negotiate. So much is coming at you, and for some reason they're always going into it really slow. Like they don't have speed, and the wave has all this power, just like roping onto that brick section where it just gets shallow. And yeah, that's so. The end section of Bells, even though I'm suggesting to you that we can count on it as something that they almost have to make, the surfer, the competitor has to do something there spectacular. Not spectacular. They just have to finish the wave, right? And it can, as you mentioned, the backwash can create some issues. Sometimes they overcommit to it and don't hit it at the right time. Like it's kind of hard to manage.
Seems like goofy footers have a little bit of an easier time cracking into the lip and like riding down with it. The best use I've ever seen was 2 or 3 years ago, John Florence. He was able to time it like right into the impact of the lip, but still kind of come down on the face of the wave without trying to ride the consequence of the lip down into the backwash, you know? But whatever.
Well, they had a skins event there, Silver Skins, I think it was, the skins event in 97. And basically, as you know, because I know you've mentioned this clip before, but Aki putting on a clinic that holds up today as perhaps the best anyone has ever surfed Bells Beach, the 97 skins event. And I was lucky enough to watch a clip of it a couple of days ago. And man, it absolutely stands the test of time. It stands up. If you watch that and you watch surfers today, I was watching it and I was going, okay, what's different today? Maybe backside surfers, maybe they're busting the fins out on those turns. But I'm suggesting to you that, first of all, Aki probably was busting fins out on some of those turns, and the power quotient is way better and way more impressive than fin flicky, turns at the top.
Yeah, the Aki, it's consistent power throughout the entire ride. Like there's no moment where he's off the brakes or adjusting or waiting for speed or anything like that. It's just like a metronome,
Yeah, the transitions are...
It's a wave that's very, very hard to have that consistent metronome power flow, basically, throughout the entire wave. So Aki executed it as well as I can think of anybody.
Well, David, Bells Beach, it's a right-breaking Australian reef wave located 3 miles southwest of Torquay, Victoria. Torquay?
Torquay. I don't know. I am not the expert. I'm
quiz.
just telling.
You need to get this right. Look, Bell's facing the chilly and powerful Southern Ocean and flanked by limestone cliffs. It's named after the Bell farming family and has for decades been a venerated surf break. Bell's at its best from March to October, which is now, as the Southern Ocean storms frequently produce 6 to 8 foot surf with waves sometimes topping 15 feet. Rain and wind and onshore winds can be common this time of year. The air temps ranging from the mid 50s to the high 70s, water temps mid 50s to mid 60s. The wave is sloping and wide, strong but rarely hollow. Deep tube rides at Bell's are rare. The break consists of 3 main sections, as you know, David. Little Rincon, located to the south. It needs a higher tide and a sub 6 foot swell. The outside Bell's, which is the main break, it's long, fast, evenly formed wall that begins to take form when the surf is about 6 feet. And the bowl is the steep final section of the outside Bell's wave, and eventually closes out at the end of that ride. So there's my little Bell's Beach primer for you.
April 1st, the event window opens. We mentioned it the last 2 weeks, but get in on Survival League if you want. Team Spit, join us, and it's $25 for the entire season, and winner takes $7,000 and 3 Panda surfboards.
Wow, Survival League. And, Jordy Smith popped into my mind. Jordy Smith is the guy that negotiates that end section pretty well. And Bell's is definitely a wave where experience matters.
Jordy could win Bell's, but Jordy's a little bit of a gamble.
Okay, well, you know what? We're rolling the dice. The forecast. I've got a forecast for you.
Just quick note on Jordy. Do you remember 8 years ago or so, I think it was a semifinal heat with him and Julian Wilson?
Not memorable to me, no.
It was not a great, it was probably waist high or something, and Jordy needed a big score and surfed the wave as well as anybody's ever surfed a wave there. And he deserved a 10. I feel like he got a 9.7 or so. If I could find the clip, I'll put it up in post-production. But that is a memorable wave from Jordy at Bell's.
All right. Well, the Bell's forecast looks like nice conditions and 4 to 7 feet of surf, plus or minus, depending on which day you choose. But that week of April 2nd to April 8th looks like good winds. Now, look, it's a bit far off. Let's be frank. It's a little too early to give a legit forecast. But at this point, that whole week is looking like good winds, which is crucial. And April 6th, which would be April 5th here in North America, it looks like 4 to 6 feet and light winds. So that's good to note, at least that the conditions, and there's some swell in the forecast.
Very good. Well, while we're on the conversation of Bell's, we were talking about qualifiers, QS or Challenger Series qualifiers onto the CT next year. And one name that we just glossed over mistakenly was the girl who won the Challenger Series. She's a 15-year-old French/Tahitian, Tya Zebrowski.
Yeah.
You've heard her name. Have you ever seen her surf?
No.
Dude, I was mistaken. I just kind of, like I said, brushed right over her, mentioned her name, but did not really give her any acknowledgement. I'm going to pull up some video right now and show you her surfing.
Yeah.
She's incredible. So she is the youngest qualifier ever for the championship tour. She qualified back in October, so before the season was even over. And she's the youngest ever qualifier. She was 14 at the time. So she's 15 now, but she qualified at the age of 14. Watch this footage I'm going to play for you. So this is her surfing Bells and Winky. But that's a 15-year-old girl. She's surfing like Carissa Moore.
I was just going to say that. It looks like Carissa Moore. It looks like a young Carissa Moore.
Her body...
That's incredible.
She looks strong. She looks like an adult in terms of like her physicality. But also her form is so on point. Her style is sick. And she's ripping.
This says that she's 4 feet 10, 83 pounds, which I find that hard to believe. 83 pounds? No way. Anyway, she's grown. She's in a growing part of her life. So
But look at the
She's
power.
got great-
Power,
yeah.
style, incredible
man.
form. Now
Where's
this
that
is all-
pipe?
yeah, this is probably backdoor now. So she charges, she just got barreled. This looks like lowers or something. But I can't believe that we overlooked her, or that I was unaware of her ability up until this past week. But Tya Zebrowski, we did you wrong, and you deserve better.
Did somebody call us out?
Somebody DM'd me, and they're like, dude, are you kidding? Check her out. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because after seeing this clip that you showed, I feel like, look, it's so funny. Like with the women, it almost feels like Katie Simmers is a veteran, and in some ways she is, but she's only been on tour a couple of years, right? And Erin Brooks, is she now a veteran relative to Tya Zebrowski?
Not really. I think they're a year or two apart. So she's maybe got more competitive experience than Tya. But I will say, Cailtin, we saw coming for a couple of years. She actually declined. She qualified and then declined her spot on tour so she could mature more before she joined the tour.
Yeah.
So we anticipated Caitlin's arrival. Erin kind of came out of left field for me, and she was made a big splash. To me, this girl is Erin, a different version of Erin. They do very different style of surfing. I feel like this is a more power-based, or she's just bigger. It seems like she just has more physicality than Erin has.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is definitely at the same level of proficiency and potentially can make as big of a splash as Erin.
Well, won't it be interesting to see Tya and Carissa against each other in a heat? And gosh, she just looks, like you said, she's got a lot of physicality.
So Carissa's an interesting comparison. They look similar, their approach is similar, but this is a fully formed Carissa. This isn't Carissa at 15.
Exactly.
This is
You're
like
exactly right.
Tya at 15 picking up where Carissa left off when she retired from tour.
Yeah, this looks like Carissa when she won world titles.
Exactly.
Now, I look at this and I think of Tya, and I think of Katie, and I think of Molly, and I think of Erin Brooks, and I say to myself, I don't know, there's some girls on tour that just that don't stand a chance against, and some of them are legit past world champions that I don't even think have a chance.
Well, that leads us, I think, into a perfect segue into our next conversation, because every girl that you mentioned, other than Cailtin Simmers, is sponsored by Rip Curl. Tya's on Rip Curl. Erin's on Rip Curl. Molly's on Rip Curl. Rip Curl really does have the next generation of women up-and-comers, potential world title winners, locked down.
Didn't
also
Tyler Wright leave
Yes.
Rip Curl, or just didn't get re-signed or something like that?
Tyler's no longer with Rip Curl as of this week. And so the thing of it is they also have Stephanie Gilmore. So I mentioned current world champ, meaning Molly Picklum, and then up-and-coming potential world champs, the girls that we just mentioned. And also Alyssa Spencer, who just qualified or re-qualified for tour. So they've got the up-and-comers locked down, but they also have the legacy with Stephanie Gilmore. So them not renewing Tyler, to me, was just probably reflective of the fact that how many legacy Australian former world champs do you need? We've already got the most notable one of all time in Stephanie Gilmore. Do we also need, somebody who has fewer accolades? Very impressive career and accolades on Tyler's own, but not as many as Stephanie. Do we need two legacy chicks? Probably not.
No, we do not. Look, once again, I mean, you got to admit, it's kind of exciting coming up on this season.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty excited. I know I get this way at the beginning of every year, because I like competition. I think competition is crucial. I think, look, we could throw anybody in 8-foot Ulu and we're going to watch it and be stoked to watch it. But when you put on the jersey and it's like, okay, it's time for who's got the mental chops, And I think of even the incredible heat with Molly and Katie last year. I think it was it was either at Cloudbreak or it was at Chopu, but it was pumping. And Katie was kind of getting smoked on her. She She looked like she might have been tired, but she was just charging. Katie Simmers was just going. She kept just going back out and charging. And Molly was charging. Was that Cloudbreak or was that Chopu?
Cloudbreak, I believe.
You remember that?
Yeah.
It was insane. And that must have been the finals.
Yeah. And they've done that a few different times. I mean, the one you're talking about is probably the most impressive because of the exhaustion. So it must have been the finals because there was the exhaustion thing kicking in. They had surfed multiple heats, or Katie had. But they've done that toe-to-toe at Pipe as well for the Pipe Masters or the Pipe Pro event. So those girls now might have third and fourth contenders for that kind of battle royale.
Well, my point is that the mental, fortitude, I guess, that Katie showed, even though she didn't get through that heat, a lot of moxie.
Totally. So mentioning Rip Curl, and they've of course long been associated with the Bells Beach event. You kind of teased it at the beginning of the show, but Paul Naude and the team at Stokehouse, which is the LLC that, the umbrella LLC for Vissla, they've put together a bid to purchase Rip Curl from KMD Brands, which used to be Kathmandu. And Kathmandu purchased Rip Curl back in 2019 for $350 million US dollars, the equivalent of about 250 US million. So they've had the brand for 7 years. And Paul Naude and Stokehouse saw an opportunity, so they put in a bid, but KMD rejected the proposal. And basically the statement was that they did not see a clear path to better shareholder value than staying the course with its own turnaround plan. Under Stokehouse's concept, Rip Curl would be the first, or would first demerge it into a separately listed company, so Rip Curl on its own, and then they would combine it under Stokehouse LLC, and Stokehouse shareholders would own 22% of the merged entity, and Naude would become CEO of Rip Curl at that point, based in California. Anything to say before I carry on?
No, go ahead.
So KMD's public reasons for saying that they didn't want this bid or were not interested were pretty blunt. They argued that Stokehouse's earning contribution was too small to justify a 22% ownership, and the deal would dilute KMD shareholders. Stokehouse carries meaningful debt relative to its earnings, and that no fresh capital was going to be injected. So KDM said that the split would actually create costly dis-synergies, require substantial capital raise, and then it would leave two smaller, less profitable businesses. The chairman, David Kirk, for KMD, also said that that strategy has never actually proven effective of doing exactly what they're trying to do. So it just seems like a bad plan.
Like multiple surf brands that directly compete with each other under the same umbrella.
Yeah, which I don't know. I mean, look, he knows way more than I do actually in that space. But when I was thinking about why Naude would do this, there was a couple of reasons, and it is obviously he wants scale. Like Vissla and Sister Revolution exist regionally, and they don't have worldwide awareness nor worldwide distribution. So Rip Curl has worldwide scale that he can directly tap into, and he has experience working at that worldwide scale space, right? So this makes sense to expand for him. Also, he has told me and everybody that surf industry ownership is better at running these brands than corporate non-surf people. So this, I think, allows the opportunity of a core belief of his, which is iconic surf brands should be run by, surfers, essentially. The third thing is Vissla, even though now they have a CT surfer, actually a world champ, Yago, that really isn't Vissla's DNA. That's a new pivot for them. So Vissla has long existed in the free surf space and supporting artisans and board builders and that sort of thing. Rip Curl has more world titles probably than any surf brand associated with their athletes. So I think that the Rip Curl pivot also allows him to now dabble in, or not dabble, but hard play in the competitive surfing arena.
Yeah, I was funny that last statement. I was like, does Rip Curl have more world titles than Quicksilver? I don't know.
Yes.
That's probably really.
Well,
'Cause
Kelly has
Kelly's
11,
got,
right?
yeah, Kelly and Steph and
Well,
Lisa Anderson.
so Lisa has 3. Now, you'd have to divide Stephanie's titles. Which did she win on? Roxy versus Rip Curl.
Yeah,
But it would be close. I mean, we could do the
Yeah.
math. It'd be close.
Tom
So
Curran.
either way, the
Gabe.
point.
Yeah,
And Gabe,
sorry.
exactly. Forgot about Gabe. So either way, the point is, the core David Kirk saying that this kind of core strategic logic doesn't make sense. What I'm saying is both brands can't exist side by side if one is focused on competitive surfing and that thing and the other one is focused on, you know, culture, basically. But that's not to say that Rip Curl doesn't focus on the other things, because Rip Curl has made, certainly recently, the most meaningful contributions to competitive surfing and surf culture than any other brand. They've got Mason Ho, they've got Tom Curran. They're putting out these incredible free surf videos every year, short form and long form. And then they're sponsoring the Eddy. They're sponsoring WSL finals for 3 years in a row. They're buying events, you know, so and they've got Mick Fanning, they've got Molly, they've got all these world champs plus competitive or plus non-competitive free surfers. So I think they do exist in both spaces. So
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. The tension that would be there between the Vissla brand and the Rip Curl brand. I mean, when I think of Rip Curl, it's just so iconic. Claw, and frankly, Neil Ridgway did a great job, in my opinion, of marketing that brand. And of course, you know, Paul knows what he's doing. It would just be really interesting tension, right? Because like you say, Rip Curl does exist in both spaces, you know? I think of it as a competitive brand, but then you think of the Surge and you think of Tom Curran. And yeah.
I think that for Naude, what is the play here? And I think Naude with Vissla, without Rip Curl, if he's focusing all his attention on Vissla, there is a natural inclination to grow the brand. And that's why they got Yago, and they are now playing in the competitive space. But if you bring in Rip Curl, and he's now CEO of Rip Curl, you can almost say, hey, Vissla, let's not grow that much. Let's just stay small. Let's stay I don't know the number, $30 million company. Everybody earns a good living, has a killer lifestyle, and we could focus on quality. We don't need to focus on growth. But Rip Curl, worldwide everything, let's continue to grow this, you know? So I think Paul is positioned at a place in his career where he is incredibly qualified to actually pull this off and to actually run or CEO Rip Curl, almost probably better qualified than anybody else that I could think of. And he saw an opportunity where they are being undervalued in the greater umbrella of KMD. And he's like, I've worked my whole life for this type of a position to take this type of a moonshot. Let's come in and make the offer. And it wasn't as if KMD had this for sale. It wasn't like they were trying to get rid of Rip Curl. So then I'm thinking they obviously declined the bid, but I'm like, the fact that they even made the bid almost devalues the brand. Just by making the bid, it makes it feel like, oh, what's wrong with Rip Curl? Why are they selling it? Is it not profitable for them? You know? And so that also feels like a strategic play for Paul, which is if they are a competitor, we can at least make them look vulnerable, you know?
Yeah, it is quite interesting. There were obviously these people are well connected, and somebody said something to somebody like, hey, you know, like, or it's just public information. It's like, look at the stock price. Like, look, man, there's an opportunity. Is this thing dying on the vine? Let's go in and resuscitate this thing. And look, Paul already, you know, did an incredible job with Billabong, along with Graham Stapleberg. So, you know, in my opinion, Paul's already proven himself there, and this is just like, you know, like let's just plug and play the same high energy, well connected, super smart business guy into this next brand. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that Paul would do wonders for this brand, and that's not to say that KMD with their strategy moving forward isn't also going to do well. We just know that there's salt in the building. We have proof in the pudding. We know that Paul can take this global brand and just go, boom, we're back.
Well, look, Paul, yes, has done those things, but he's also learned from missteps along the way. And let's not forget, as far as he grew Billabong's business, they ultimately bankrupted after that, you know? So there were mistakes that were made at some point. And you can't pin the mistakes on him specifically because there was a global economic crisis and all these external factors. But make no mistake, he learned from those, you know? And so do you get another chance to take a moonshot with one of the 5 legacy brands? There's only 5, and this is a rare opportunity to do that, I think, or he saw what could potentially be an opportunity. And so, like I said,
the big tension is shareholders. Okay, if there's salt in the building and you're a surfer and you're all that, go tell that to the shareholders who are like, dude, what's going on with the stock price? Like, where's my value? Oh, okay, well then we better go buy a golf company or there's,
yeah.
It almost seems like if you're going to argue there's got to be salt in the building, then in some ways you're arguing it has to be a private company that's not on the public market. Because when you try to combine those two things, you're really mixing oil and water.
Completely agree. Conflicting interests.
Yeah. But look, I'm not a business expert. I've always been a believer in if the waves are good, drop all your responsibilities and go surfing. That's it. And look at me, I'm wearing a t-shirt.
I wear a t-shirt for a living.
Oh, Lord.
I got a bunch more, moving on from that conversation, but a bunch more to discuss. Do you need a break for refreshment or or anything else? Or should I just keep rolling?
What are you suggesting?
I don't know. I'm just asking, just trying to be polite.
That's nice of you.
We're at the 50-minute mark.
I'll take a break. I'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll discuss some more important news.
Go rest your vocal cords for a minute.
I'm back.
Oh, we got the ag1.com/surf. Drinkag1.com/surf.
Oh, yeah.
Well done. This show's about to get sparky.
We got to get in shape for Nicaragua and Chicama and Indonesia.
That's true.
And so we're back on. It's funny, springtime. It's you kind of get back on your program. My yoga, my foundation training, the AG1, the sit-ups, the push-ups, the weight training. Yeah, we're
robust.
Back.
That's a robust
I'm
schedule.
beat up, man. I swear. I wake up and I'm just beat up. I don't know.
Well, drinkag1.com/surf for foundational nutrition and recovery, 75 vitamins, minerals. Research it on your own. By the way, 90-day money-back guarantee, so no reason not to try.
Watch me try to drink this without spilling it, dribbling it down.
You got the AG1 dribble going. Well, one final thought.
It's a thing, man.
I know. Gabriel Medina is obviously joining us again this year on tour, 2026 season. He has just partnered with Adriano de Souza as a coach for this season.
Really?
Adriana de Souza.
That's great. That's scary. You put those two guys together.
That AG1 hit hard, huh?
It did. Man, it's like a shot of whiskey.
Well, so I think this is kind of incredible news. I think it's an incredible pick and maybe the most qualified coach surfer duo that we've ever seen. Gabriel Medina is a 3-time world champ. Adriana de Souza is a 1-time world champ. I've never seen a coach who was a world champ before that I could think of on the surf side.
That's interesting. What about Barton Lynch?
Who's he coaching?
I don't know. Didn't he coach somebody at one point?
I mean, he coaches kids and stuff, but I haven't seen him traveling on tour with anybody.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. You know what?
I mean,
stand corrected.
You see the Glenn Halls of the world. You see Richard Dog Marsh. You see Jake Patterson. Luke Egan. You see contest winners, former CT winners. but I've never seen a former world champ. And so fantastic pairing, I think. I'm expecting huge things.
You know, it'd be incredible is if Gabe Medina said, yeah, I've got a new coach. He's a former world champion. Tom Curran. Tom Curran is my new coach.
What's he coaching you for, Gabe? Guitar lessons?
It would just be the greatest, reality TV if we could just follow Tom Curran around coaching Gabe. Or it'd probably be Gabe having to follow Tom around getting coaching advice.
Yeah. Well, the other kind of thing that we probably haven't even discussed yet is Gabriel Medina's been riding Channel Islands surfboards in the preseason and off season. So whether or not he will be riding those throughout the 2026 season remains to be seen, but he's certainly shaking things up, with a new coach and a new approach.
Well, I'm sure you read what I read, but I guess they reached out to Johnny Cabianca and Gabe ordered 22 new boards. So that seems like the type of order that suggests he's going to stay with Johnny, but I don't know. I'm sure that the Channel Islands boards are working great, as we know they do. So I'm a big fan of sticking with one guy. Like the Jack Robinson jumping around kind of spooks me a little bit. It reeks of desperation a little bit, Yeah. Going from whatever he was riding to then riding Sharp Eyes to jumping around. It's there's not too many world champions that have done that.
Yep.
In fact, can you name one?
Andy Irons.
Yeah. He was pretty much JS though, wasn't he? I don't mean like when you're in Hawaii and you're riding Tokoros or Arakawas or whatever. I mean, jumping around on tour. So Andy jumped around.
Andy jumped around a lot. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who he won the titles on, but he was on Mayhems, he was on Channel Islands, he was on JS, he was on Arakawa.
Yeah.
But not with a contract. When I say on, I just mean riding, not with a contract. Yeah. So he was free agent.
Yeah.
On surfboards, kind of a side note, but I think worth directing listeners to, we talked about Sterling Spencer having Joel Tudor on his podcast.
Yeah.
He posted, Sterling posted a follow-up video yesterday, full-length YouTube episode, 100, an hour and 15 minutes or something, and just discussing the fallout from that episode. He's like, our comment section went crazy. Of course, I heard from Firewire. Of course, then Kelly chimes in. So I talked to Kelly. I talked to Joel again. And Sterling's take was really interesting. I found this episode almost as interesting as the Joel episode itself. Mm-hmm. So anybody who wants to hear all the sordid details, go listen. But the most interesting part to me was Sterling Spencer rode for Firewire for a year. And he spends 20 minutes detailing the experience. And I thought that was very eye-opening, actually. And I can give you kind of the quick version, but it won't do it justice. So go listen to Sterling's own telling of it. But basically, Sterling had been riding. He was free agent also. He was riding a couple of he was making a surf movie called Surf Madness. So he was really working to put together clips. He was surfing with Taj. He was surfing with Dane Reynolds. So the best surfers in the world at that time, Sterling is doing trips with to accumulate clips. And Sterling surfing is honestly right there with them. Like that's the level he was surfing at that time. And he was riding Mayhems that were working really, really well for him. But because he surfed with Taj in one section, I think it was Puerto Rico, Taj was riding Firewire at the time. And he's like, dude, you should get on Firewire. Like they're kind of like, they're marketing themselves as the future of board construction, And so he's like, okay. So he goes to California, he meets with Chewy Reyna, and they're like, yeah, let's get you some Nevs from Australia. So Sterling's like, sick, I'm filming this film for this duration of period. I would love to get the boards. We'll include them in the film. So it takes 4 months to get a board. And Sterling's like, I'm running out of time. I need a board. And like, can't you guys just shape me a board? And they're like, no, that's not how it works here. Nev's in Australia. And he's like, well, even if you ship it from Australia, it should be able to get here pretty soon, So they give him one of Taj's hand-me-downs, and the board works killer. And he's like, this is amazing. but I need a quiver of boards. Like I need surfboards basically. So like, well, let's introduce you to Dan Mann. We have Dan Mann here. He's like, all right, sick. Give me a Dan Mann. He never ends up meeting Dan Mann. So he's in flux for a long period of time. Also, there's never a contract signed. So Sterling, but they start using the videos or photos that they have of Sterling riding the Firewires. Firewire starts using in their marketing materials. So he's like, this is sick. They're promoting me. They're promoting my career, but god dang, I can't get a surfboard. or he said the other issue with the Firewires is they lose, the ones that he had ridden lose their spark fairly quickly. Like they feel zesty and incredible on first go, but then over time they lose their pop. So he needed a constant stream of boards, you know. Ultimately, he never got the boards that he was hoping to get. They ended up partnering him with Daniel Thompson as well, but it was like they didn't get along very well. He said he didn't think Daniel liked him very much. So he never gets a quiver of Tomos. Ultimately, he just needs surfboards to ride, so he hooks up with Chris Christensen and he starts riding the boards. And then Firewire is bummed on Sterling because he jumped ship. But Sterling's like, I never signed a contract. I never earned $1. He goes, they actually never paid me because they weren't obligated to. The goal was to get me boards and I would succeed on the boards. But they used him in their marketing materials. So he almost felt like in the end, he got the worst of the exchange. He never earned $1. He opened up retail accounts for them through his family's surf shops, Interlight Surfboards. And so they sold a bunch of the retail accounts that they still maintain to this day, you know, a decade plus. So they've sold tons of surfboards through the relationships that they developed with him. And he feels like he got the short shrift in the exchange. So that was his take.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's, to me, my impression on it is he gives more details, of course, that I think pull back the curtain in a way that's interesting to consumers, but it also seems shockingly naive of Sterling. Like him feeling like he got short shrift in the exchange without having had a contract or any explanation of timelines or dollars that will be exchanged or any of that seems very much like how professional surfers worked back in the 90s and the 2000s, you know, like I think things are more professional now, but it does seem a bit naive on his part to be confused by the exchange in the end.
Well, his show is really entertaining. So I look forward to continuing to engage with, what's that podcast called again?
Pinch My Salt.
Pinch My Salt. Sorry. No, I don't mean it like I didn't. I love Pinch My Salt. I just forgot the name of it because I just call it the Sterling. Like to me, it's like the Sterling Show. I didn't know it has a title, but
well, he said Firewire gave him a bunch of kickback about Joel's commentary, and Chewy Reyna and Joel actually go toe to toe in the comments section publicly, so you could see that. But he also,
what is that like? What's that rundown like?
It's basically Chewy saying, you know, I can't believe you believe. Do you actually believe the bull crap that comes out of your mouth? Like, we offer surfboards at a premium. The consumer knows about the construction methods, all that kind of thing. Like, they can decide what they want to do. And Joel's saying, yeah, let's have a talk. Why don't you come down and meet me at Moonlight Glassing, and we'll have this. You can tell everybody there that's working about how you're helping the surf industry. And Chewy's like, sweet, I'll meet you there. Give me a day and time. So Sterling takes it upon himself to then reach out to Kelly, and he's like, hey, Kelly, why don't you come on Pinch My Salt and have this conversation publicly with Joel, and you guys can just share your thoughts. And Kelly replied and said, it's not worth my time.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is something that I actually just don't want to get involved in. These are all people that I do business with, and it's not really, it doesn't do me any good.
Yeah. Well,
to get involved here, but
well, Sterling doesn't.
It certainly is exciting for everyone that wants to chime in and be a keyboard warrior. It's a great time to do that.
Well, Sterling also doesn't, you know, pull any blushes or conceal any information. So if you do want the varnished story from, somebody who's lived it and gone through it. Friends with all these people, obviously. Has a working relationship with Chewy Reyna back in the day, and they're still friends, he said. So go check that out.
All right.
The other... Hold on. What else do I got here for you? Oh, Duke of the Week. We've all seen what's going on the North Shore and on Oahu with the flooding. Catastrophic flooding, by the way. Really crazy stuff. Did you have thoughts or any take on that?
I mean, the only thing that, I can't add anything that everyone doesn't already know about it. I guess the good news is the trade winds are supposed to kick back in here, and that should blow out all the hideous water and get the drying out process beginning.
Well, the community has come together. Obviously, there's relief stations and people providing boat ferrying service to get people to safety. But why I said this is the Duke. Florence, MarineX just posted. They've got a clothing relief hub set up for tomorrow. So this is at, at Wishing Well in Waialua. And it's set up. You can come get free clothes, basically. They're handing out free clothes. So I presume these are Florence MarineX clothing. Maybe they've also have donations from other brands that are submitting to this. But it's going to be tomorrow, or today, I guess it is, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Hawaiian time, which is March 25th. So if you need help and you're near that in Waialua, go check it out at Wishing Well. And shout out to the brands who are putting their money where their mouth is.
Well, that's very kind and thoughtful of them. And there was one clip that I saw. Moana Jones-Wong I followed her Insta a little bit. She had some pretty good stuff. And I don't know if it was on her clip or where I saw it, but there was this clip of basically a massive front loader, tractor with a front loader scoop, moving its way through these flooded waters to get to this old man's home, to his porch. And this old man was in a wheelchair. And then these guys are in the bucket. They lower the bucket. They get out of the bucket. They set up a ramp, and they roll this old man onto the ramp, onto the massive bucket, and then they get back in the bucket to secure the old man. And then the front loader moves them to safety. It was a pretty incredible moment of community getting together and helping each other and helping neighbors that are in need. It was pretty sweet.
Incredible.
It was very. Community service, helping those in need, helping the marginalized. It was pretty powerful.
Make a mental note to throughout the week as you see stuff like that, send it to me, and then I will put it on the show. And in real time, I'll be able to play that video.
Yeah.
That sounds powerful.
It was really cool.
Which also reminds me, should I play this Cailtin Simmers clip that you sent me?
Yeah, this Cailtin Simmers clip. Let's play it. It was sort of.
Do you want me to play the audio with it?
Yeah, play the audio.
Okay. All right, let's do that.
In 2024, 18-year-old Katie Simmers capped off her first world title in the title match against reigning WSL champion Carolyn Marks. It was the first women's world title for California in 40 years. On the auction block, 2024 world champion Katie Simmers, her personal Chris Borst designed surfboard. This board is certified history and pure California gold. The surfboard of a world champion, not just any world champion, but the youngest surfer to ever claim a world championship, Miss Katie Simmers.
Man, how small is that board?
I think I don't know, I want to say it's 5'6", maybe.
Yeah, it looks tiny.
It's on the California Gold website, and so you can get all the dims and everything there, but you know what? With Bells coming up, with the competitive season coming up, I thought it would be fun to kind of throw that onto the show and let people know both that the board's available if you're interested in owning that, but that here we go. The World Tour is about to begin, and it's been a while since we've had a heat, and I think people are pretty excited about it, and a good-looking forecast for Bells.
Well, so many of the California Gold surf auction boards that you advertise are historic, older vintage boards. This is historic too, but it's a modern board.
Yeah, 2024. And when I do this research on this stuff, I often, stuff comes that I forgot about, like that she's the youngest ever world champion.
For the pointy shortboard side of things, Rachel Tilley would be the youngest female world champ ever.
Right.
And Margot Oberg is in the conversation too, if you want to go pre-era,
ISA,
pre-WSL era.
ISA stuff.
Yeah.
Look at you breaking out all the possible contenders.
Well, look, quiz for you. Who's the youngest female qualifier ever?
Tya Zebrowski.
Good memory, Scott. Well done. If you failed that one, that would have been comedic.
Could have happened. It could have. I thought it was maybe a trick question, but okay.
Well, also, before we go, make sure, become a member at Surfrider, surfrider.org. Geez, now more than ever, we need your help for defending the ocean's health and wellness, and not enough surfers support the Surfrider Foundation. And, by becoming a member, they will email you, keep you informed with all the initiatives of what's going on. But they also have an incredible merch store. I would say 30 to 40% of my clothing that I wear, certainly my t-shirts, 50, 60% of my t-shirts that I wear nowadays are from the Surfrider Foundation. And it's not doing them a favor. It's because the quality is shockingly good, and the designs, they freshen up the design and the graphic stuff all the time. So there's always new stuff. I've got a Yeti, I've got this hydro flask, all from Surfrider. So surfrider.org's merch store not only is it great quality, but supports the cause.
Well, I have a must-see moment. I watched it this morning, and it was Shipstern's Bluff, and it was called Stern Warning, and it's from Tim Benaithan, and it's basically just gnarly 17-second meaty Shipstern's Bluff. It's not necessarily new footage, but it's a 28-minute clip of a recent swell, and it's just one of those crazy Shipstern situations where guys are just getting annihilated, and some guys are getting the tube rides of their life, and guys are getting sucked over the falls onto the rocks, and it's pretty engaging.
Amazing. Yeah,
Must-see moment. Presented by Treeswax, by the way. Our good friends Christian at Treeswax. And Christian just got a booth for the Boardroom Show that's coming up in October, about 7 months away here. So that floor plan's filling up. So if you're interested in getting a booth, you guys should get on it. We'd love to have you and your surf company involved.
Yeah, and Christian, I know, makes lots of great connections there. Lots of listeners who have heard about Treeswax but didn't take the opportunity to buy it online because they maybe didn't want a full box or something. But you can grab a sample from him there, and then you will see the error of your ways and go back to treeswax.com and buy a box and save 20% with promo code SPIT on treeswax.com. Of course, it's petroleum-free surf wax, and it's high performance. It's like works as good as anything else. It's just made from rocks and trees. So kind of incredible. Yeah. I also have a must-see moment that I'm going to show you now. Look, I've said it before, and I will continue to say it. I try to avoid. I've almost put a moratorium on playing wave pool clips in my must-see moment section, but occasionally a clip comes along, and you're just like, what? That is insane. This is, just look at this kid's style. This is Joel Vaughan. Whack. And look at these airs that he does with regularity and so much panache. Just smooth as could be, crazy rotations, crazy grabs, and just sticking them all. Flips, grabs, style.
That's amazing. That really is. He's at the top of his game. What is he? He's probably 19 years old. Everything's culminating, He's still got the sort of the springiness of being a 14-year-old, but he's growing into a stronger body, and he's getting more height off of these airs, and and as you mentioned, the style, right? These sort of, I don't even know the names of these airs, but he's got a lot of panache.
That first turn, I almost like better than the airs. That end section snap. Yeah. But this is where, we question the, legitimacy, the validity, the whatever of wave pools, because it's not the ocean. And I'll still say the biggest airs are going to be done in the ocean because it's more energy. You have bigger sections. Yeah. But what can be done in the pool is not only practice, but practicing the style. Like, I feel his style is a reflection of being able to go out there and hit the same section over and over and over again and really,
That's an
grease
interesting
it.
thought. I don't know. I'm not going to push back on you, but a little bit of pushback. I think style is not something that you can teach. I think he has this style when he was 13 years old in the ocean. And I just, I'm not saying that he's not pushing what he's doing and he's not getting better at what he's doing in the pool, but I think his style was always there. I'm not sure that.
Yeah, maybe style isn't what I'm trying to communicate. I can't think of a better word for the greasing of the landings and everything.
Yeah, he's certainly polishing things, right?
Yeah. Like that
one particular one, that backside one.
Yeah.
Where he leans over it. What's that called? Like, it's like a slob.
I don't know what it's called, but it's like that. Where would you, in the ocean, you wouldn't get the opportunity to practice that. But he's greasing them,
I mean, Matt Miola seems to have plenty of opportunities to practice stuff.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Regardless,
it's mind blowing, and there's no doubt that a wave pool offers opportunities that simply aren't there in the ocean for the majority of us.
Okay, now my promise is this is the last wave pool clip I will ever play on this show.
Okay, this is a great promise.
I'm not known to keep my promises.
Some of the crazy stuff that's been happening with this war that we started is a piece of a missile landed in a pool in Israel. Did you see that?
Yes.
And then there was another clip of actually surfing in the Mediterranean there off of Israel. A friggin' missile landed while there's a bunch of guys out in the water. Like, it landed like 100 meters away from them. And, of course, Abu Dhabi's just getting, drones are being shot at him. Like, if you're, I don't know where in Dubai, where is Dubai? Is that in Abu Dhabi or is that in the United Arab Emirates? I'm kind of clueless as to my geo.
I think Dubai is.
You don't know either. Look at you. You're going to the keyboard and figure it out. But the point is that
before I type it in, I believe Abu Dhabi is the country, Dubai is the city. That's what I think it is in.
And Dubai is where Kelly's pool is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's drones being shot there. Like, people are shopping for like Dior handbags and seeing drones fly by the windows. It's crazy.
Okay, I was wrong. Dubai is not in Abu Dhabi. Both are separate independent emirates. What would be a state, basically, and they're part of the 7 emirates making up the United Arab Emirates. So Abu Dhabi is the capital and the largest, while Dubai is a neighboring emirate located to the northeast.
Mm-hmm. Well, regardless, there's that whole region is a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, well, the Israel stuff, no joke. The bomb, it was an Iranian bomb that broke apart and then tore the lining of a wave pool. Is the first story that you're talking about. So the wave pool needs to be whatevered, rehabbed, fixed. And then the Iranian bomb that hit in the lineup in Tel Aviv is the most harrowing, because I didn't see footage of the wave pool stuff, but there's surfers just catching waves. And 100 yards over, thankfully there was no peak breaking there. The wave or the missile happened to hit adjacent to where the consistent peak was and where everybody was sitting. But it was a full missile that blew up, landed in the water 100 yards away from all the surfers there. So there's more horrific things happening on shore and all around the region. Nobody was harmed in that one, so it's actually not that horrific comparatively. But the fact that surfers are just surfing, minding their own business, and still affected by the ravages of war is really heartening.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What else? Is that it? Did we cover it all?
I feel like we did. I feel like we've covered a lot. Look, we've got new surfboards coming from Rusty. That's the most important thing, right? Let's just stick to the facts. We're excited about our new boards and our trip to Nicaragua.
I thought of one extra thing I needed to tell you.
Yeah.
Let me hydrate real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned doing a Cheater 5 earlier in the show back in the 80s.
Yeah.
We know the inventor of the Cheater 5.
Mickey Munoz.
Paul Strauch.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Paul Strauch.
The Strauch Crouch is what it was called before it was called the Cheater 5. I want to tease something. Paul Strauch, I might have mentioned this to you, recorded a series of podcasts back in 2019. I am going to be publishing some of those on Surf Splendor's feed today and this week. They are incredible, and it's, I would argue, better than anything I've ever done, because Paul Strauch, it's a conversation between friends. It is him interviewing people, but it's him interviewing his friends. It's him having conversations with his friends. And they have decades of history, most of them, actually all of them. And furthermore, they all looked up to Strauch. Strauch was the guy that they had posters on their wall of when Jerry Lopez was getting into surfing, when Skip Fry was getting into surfing. So the list of, there's only 10 or 12 episodes, and it's a who's who. It's like Greg Knoll, Jerry Lopez, Randy Rarick, Peter Cole, Skip Fry. The Mike Hinson episode is wild. And these are gold. These are pure gold. So anyways, the family reached out to me. It's called PodAloha, and they're not available anywhere on the internet anymore. And they want these to be made available to the public. And so I'm going to help in that effort. So look forward. Go, if you don't already listen to Surf Splendor, go to Surf Splendor, click subscribe. And in the coming days, I'm going to drop a few of those for people.
And if you do some Instagram marketing, just, I'll collab to get it out there if you want to do that too.
They're gold, dude. They're like,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I want to listen to it.
Fly on the wall. Fly on the wall of listening to Paul Strauch hanging out in the Shaping Bay with Skip Fry telling stories from the last decades.
That sounds killer.
And Strauch, I know you and I both have gotten to spend a bit of time with him. You really get it through his interviews and his questioning, and he is the ultimate gentlemanly scholar and ambassador of Aloha.
He's got it's almost like a transfusion of Duke Hanamoku, like the humility and the kindness and the spirit of love that comes from Paul is amazing.
And it is affecting, you know what I mean? Like it's contagious. Like if you're around him, yes, but just listening to him, you're just like, oof, I need to tighten up my game. I need to be kinder. I need to be more positive. I need to be, more engaged in what the other person's saying and not as much ego trying to tell my story. Like he is incredible. And the connection to Duke Hanamoku is real. Like he spent a lot of time with Duke, traveled the world as part of the Duke Hanamoku surf team. So I think he was actually heavily influenced by that spirit of Aloha, and he embodies it as well as, and potentially better than anybody I've ever known personally.
Totally agree. Paul Strauch is an absolute lovely human being. Big
fan in this series. I'm just like obsessed.
Good. So I'm looking forward to listening to it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, look, we look forward to seeing that. David, we've said a lot. Lots been discussed. Until next time, adios and aloha.